So good morning again, everybody. We are going to start today. If you have a block, that's great. I'm going to sit on this little block here. My color selection is a little tricky because I've got pink and purple, so it might be hard to see that I'm sitting on a block, but I am sitting on a block in sort of a hero's pose. If you don't have a block, just roll up a blanket and put it between the sit bones or right so that the sit bones are sitting on it with your knees off to the side and feet in line with the knees. And then if that's not comfortable to your knees, you can always sit in a crisscross applesauce seat. The idea though is that you're aware of the pelvis and the base of the pelvis, because we're going to start with just some breathing and some attention to our pelvic floor. So once you get settled in that position, I want you maybe just to close your eyes. I'm going to try to keep my eyes open, but sometimes I close my eyes too. So we'll start to just pay attention to what's going on in that root chakra, the very base of the pelvis as it's rooting down into the floor or the mat or the bolster or the blanket or the block. And start to notice as the breath goes in and the breath goes out, just where the breath naturally wants to go in your body. Notice if you're holding any tension in the abdominal area. See if you can allow the abdominal area to relax and release. Maybe think of the whole idea of accepting the breath into the abdominal area, this sort of openness. And then as you continue to notice the breath moving in and moving out, see if you can notice the bottom of the rib cage sort of flaring out to the side like a bellows. As the breath goes in, there's a movement of the upper belly, a movement of the rib cage out to the side. And then the breath moves out. Everything moves back to center. And then we breathe in again, allowing the belly to move, allowing the rib cage to move to the back and the sides and the front in this really expansiveness, moving into the upper ribs, broadening through the shoulders and lengthening out the cervical spine, the neck. And then we exhale. So using the breath to touch base with the body, using the breath as sort of this vantage point of watching the body move in subtle ways. Feeling the expansiveness of the breath as it moves and opens space in our body. And then come to an awareness of back to the base of the pelvis where the sit bones are settled down into the surface you're sitting on. And between the sit bones and between the pubic bone in front and the tailbone in back is a group of muscles called the pelvic floor, which most of you are aware of. And as you practice this breathing, see if you can not only allow the belly to move and the rib cage to move and the upper chest and the shoulders to broaden, but see if you can notice a little bit of an expansiveness in the base of the pelvis. And then on the exhale, see if you notice that movement come back to center. And then we'll inhale again. Feel the movement, feel the openness, feel the spaciousness. This time on the exhale, right in the center of the pelvis, see if you can draw up the pelvic floor. And we'll inhale to release that, open, find space. And we'll exhale to draw up, find the center, lifting up that perineum, almost like you're pulling up towards the belly button, towards the rib cage. Inhale to release that. And it's very important in our yoga practice that we're feeling this movement throughout the practice. And that ensures that we're not holding tension in those pelvic floor muscles. It ensures us that we're able to breathe with allowing the diaphragm to move through its full range of motion. And as I'm talking, I want you to just be noticing the breath move in and the breath move out. The pelvic floor rises on the exhale and releases on the inhale. So continue doing that. And what we'll do now is we're going to add some arm movements to that. So arms down by your side. We'll inhale the arms up. And then intentionally turn the hands so they face out and exhale the arms down. And notice the freedom of movement as you inhale, how naturally the arms float up. And then as you turn your hands, gently tighten Mula Bandha, lift that perineum up, tighten the pelvic floor as you exhale, arms come down. And then we'll inhale up, lifting and reaching. Notice the sides of the body, notice the groundedness of the sit bones. Exhale, arms come down. Lovely. And then this time we'll inhale once more, lifting as tall as you can, sitting up on those sit bones, on the base of the pelvis. Grab your right wrist with your left hand and slowly side bend over to the left side. Notice the space that you're creating in the right side of the ribs and the groundedness of the right sit bone as you lift and side bend with the breath. So reaching a little bit further on the inhale with the fingers. Exhale brings us a little bit more into the side bend. Be gentle, go slow. And then we'll inhale back to center, reaching those fingertips nice and tall. And then take your forefinger and your thumb around your left wrist, and we'll exhale over to the right side, keeping in mind that we want to keep that left sit bone engaged with the earth. And we'll inhale to lengthen the left side of the body. Exhale, side bend over to the right. There's an invitation always on the exhale. We're moving slowly but gently lift the perineal body, lift the pelvic floor. And then we'll inhale to release. Exhale, little deeper into the left side bend. And here's a chance to kind of notice difference between right and left. And then we'll inhale once again. And we'll exhale. We'll bring our hands down to heart center. If your eyes are closed, keep them closed and set an intention for your class today. For me, it's I've been trying to work since the new year on my relationship with time and space. One day I was thinking, like, the time is now and the space is here. Let's do this. Let's bring our energy in and not be afraid of not having time and not having space. So that one, if you like that mantra, I offer it up to you. That's what my mantra is for the class today. Time is now, the space is here. Let's inhale those arms up once again. And then this time we're going to exhale. We're going to rotate to the right. So the left hand comes down on the outside of the right leg, right hand gently behind. If your foot is there, if you're in this hero's pose, you want to reach back and kind of massage that right foot with your right hand, or make some type of contact with the right foot. And then as we inhale, we'll lengthen out the spine once again, and then exhale, gently turn to the right. We'll take that breath in one more time, lengthening the crown of the head, moving towards the ceiling. Exhale as we turn just a little bit further to the right. And then we'll inhale those arms up once again, find the space in the ribs and the abdomen. And we'll exhale and we'll come to the left. Again, if you're in the hero's pose and you want to kind of make contact with hand and foot, it's a really nice time to do that. Inhale to lengthen the spine. Exhale, twist gently. Left shoulder coming towards the back wall. And then one more time as we inhale. And then we exhale a little bit more of a twist. And then we'll come back to center once again. We'll inhale those arms up. Exhale, we're going to bring the hands down to the mat. And now we're going to turn so that we're lined up on the long side of the mat. And we'll come into some cat and cows. Now, I've been doing a lot of cat cows with my toes tucked under recently because I really like the way it sort of stretches into my foot arches. So if you want to do that, that's a nice thing to do here. You can also keep your feet with the tops of the foot flat. So we're going to start in a fairly neutral spine. Remember, there's always a little bit of a curve in the low back. And then allow the low back to drop, allow the head to come up as you inhale. And then as you exhale, gently squeeze Mula Bandha, that pelvic floor, as you bring the tailbone towards the chin towards the tailbone. And then we'll inhale to release that effort, lifting the tailbone up, lifting up the crown of the head. On the exhale, we'll gently tighten Mula Bandha, pelvic floor, pulling the tailbone towards the chin and chin towards the tailbone. And then we'll inhale again, lifting up. And exhale, tucking under. And then coming back to that neutral spine again. If you want to keep your toes tucked under, that's great. If your toes were flat, go ahead and tuck them under. We're going to slide the right leg back so that the bottom of the foot is tucked under. And we're just going to press gently with our arms and push the torso back. So we're getting a really nice stretch into the right heel cord, right calf. Feel the quadriceps engage. And feel the strength that your arms are generating here as they push you back. Notice that even with all of that efforting, there's space for breath. There's time for breath. Inhaling and exhaling. Good. Take one more breath here. And then release some of that efforting through your arms and come back to a more relaxed pose, keeping that right leg back, and then just lifting it up off the ground. So again, here, we're trying to just like shoot our right foot out of the hip. Really keeping everything nice and strong in alignment with the body. One more breath here. And then exhale, bring that right knee to join the left. We'll kind of shift our hips from side to side. Maybe make some barrel rolls. See what feels good to your body here. Let go of some of that efforting from the lumbar spine. And then we'll take the left leg back, slide it back. Again, power up those arms so we're pushing forward on the mat. Quadriceps on the left is really engaged here. Pressing into the heel cord in that really nice stretch through those calf muscles. Calf muscles do so much work for us all day long. We need to really increase some space here. And when we breathe in and out primarily through the nose, it actually has this effect of dilating blood vessels. So again, another way of finding space in the body by finding space in the blood vessels that are bringing oxygenated blood to our tissues. Take one more breath here, and then we'll come back. Release some of that effort from your arms, and then we'll just gently lift that left leg up towards the ceiling. Toes are still flexed down towards the mat. Quadriceps engaged. Feel the hip muscles working. As we breathe in and breathe out, And then we'll lower down that left knee and we'll do some side to side movements, tail wags, maybe some modified cat cows, just working into the lumbar spine there. And after you've done enough of those, go ahead and put the tops of the feet down and we'll get a little bit better base of support here. And we're going to do some things with our arms to try to strengthen our core muscles here, along with our pelvic floor. So on the inhale, release your belly, allow it to move down towards the mat. On the exhale, gently squeeze your pelvic floor and feel the tension that's generated in the abdominal wall. And see if you can just lift your right hand up about 4 inches. And then lower it down. So notice the effort on the left side when you have to take all the weight in that left arm. Now we'll do the same thing on the other side. So take a breath in to release the belly, release pelvic floor. On the exhale, gently squeeze pelvic floor and see if you can lift the left hand, maybe 4 or 5 inches. Notice that there's a lot of concentration going on to hold the pelvic floor and maintain stability in the spine. Good, so we'll try that again. So on the right side, we'll inhale to release abdominals. On the exhale, gently squeeze pelvic floor, lift the right hand, maybe 4 or 5 inches. And I like to think of this as kind of like a cat pawing the ground or your belly or wherever it's pawing to try to make biscuits. But we're doing it in slow motion. So breath in, breath out, squeeze pelvic floor and lift the left arm up. And lower it down. So again, just a little bit of a core work here. Now we can combine the legs and the arms, and generally we raise the arm forward when we do that. So we'll go into that motion now. So take a breath in. On the exhale, gently squeeze your pelvic floor. Right arm's going to lift out in front, and the left leg is going to lift to the back. So hold that posture for just a minute. Not a minute, a moment. Take a breath in, and then exhale, lower down. Nice. Shift the hips if that feels good. On the next inhale, release the belly, release pelvic floor. On the exhale, gently squeeze pelvic floor and lift the left arm and the right leg. Notice the difficulty that there is with trying to keep a little bit of tension in the pelvic floor as you raise your arm to the front and the back. Exhale, lower down. Shift the hips side to side. And then when you're ready, we're going to go back on to lift the right arm, left leg. So inhale, exhale, tighten pelvic floor. Feel that nice core stability. Lift up the right arm and the left leg. And now we're going to try to do a little bit of a flow. If you don't want to go with me here, you can just stay here or come back down. But we'll inhale again. And then on the exhale, bring the knee to the elbow and the elbow to the knee underneath the belly. Inhale, release that effort. Exhale, gently squeeze Mula Bandha and bring elbow to knee, knee to elbow. Inhale to release. Exhale to lower. Shake out whatever needs shaking, maybe your shoulders side to side, maybe your hips side to side, maybe both. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So we'll inhale to release. Exhale, gently squeeze Mula Bandha. Start to lift left arm and right leg. Once we get that nice and lifted, we'll take another inhale. Exhale, left elbow to right knee underneath the body. Bring Mula Bandha along with you. Inhale to release. Exhale, Mula Bandha. Pelvic floor contracts as you come under. We'll inhale to release and reach. And then exhale, hand comes down, knee comes down. Shift the hips, shift the shoulders. See what needs to wiggle. And maybe this is a good time to come back down into a child's pose. Resting the forehead down on the forearms if that's comfortable. And if your legs are narrow like mine are, you're going to feel a little bit more breath into the back of the rib cage. So notice that three-dimensionality of the ribs as they move when we breathe. If your legs are a little bit wider, you may feel a little more belly movement when we get into this posture. Child's pose, always an option. You could spend an entire class in child's pose and still be doing yoga. So take one more breath here. Feel the buttocks kind of start to lengthen down towards the heels and low back start to open up. And then we're going to walk our hands up so that we're sitting in kind of a low kneeling position. And take your hands into the small of your back. Elbows are going to kind of pull together. And we're going to inhale, come up, and just a very gentle little back bend here. Lifting our chin up towards the ceiling, elbows pull together. Exhale, come back down. Bringing the sit bones down to the heels. Inhale, come back up. And exhale. If you want to bring the pelvic floor in, we exhale and bring the hips back down. And we'll go one more time. This time we're going to stay up. On the inhale, come back to a neutral spine, and we'll bring the right foot forward into this little bit of a low lunge. Now here we want to kind of tuck the pelvis under just a little bit, and then start to lunge forward so that the right knee is coming to rest right over the right ankle. But there's a little bit of a pelvic tilt going on to get a nice stretch into the hip flexors. If it's available, raise the arms up. And notice again how the breath changes as we change the shape of our container, this body of ours. We end up changing the way that the breath moves in the body. So take one more breath here as we lift just a little bit higher. And then we're going to open up to the right side, bringing the arms down to a T and feel the rotation. Breathe in, we breathe out. Keep up some tension in the left glutes as they sort of isometrically push the left knee back. There's also a little bit of a pull from the abdominals, keeping the pelvis tucked under. So we do this sort of co-contraction around the pelvis, then opens up space. Then we'll inhale, bring the arms back up, lift up the gaze towards the hands if that's comfortable to your neck. On the exhale, we'll bring both hands down inside the right foot here and allow the right knee just to drop down a bit. Now, if you've got a block handy, this is a nice pose to use with a block. You can kind of mosey on down to where you're getting on your forearms if that's available. You may be able to get on your forearms without a block. So just see where your body is today. And notice that you've got a lot of opening through the right adductors, through that right hip, as we roll onto the outside of the right foot. And then we'll take one more breath here. And then we'll come back up, removing the block if you had one, placing your hands on either side of that right foot. And we're going to sit the hips back towards that left heel. You can bring the toes up off the ground if that's comfortable, where we're kind of pressing that right heel down into the mat and getting a nice stretch through the hamstrings. Arms aren't doing a whole lot here. We're really using the weight of the body as it's moving the buttocks back towards the left heel to stretch through the right leg. And we'll take one more breath here. And then when you're ready, rock back forward, bring the right knee back to join the left. Opportunity here to do some tail wags, make some barrel rolls, whatever feels good to you. And then we'll sit back on the heels and come back to our sort of low kneeling position. This time we're going to come up on the inhale once again, taking it just a little bit deeper and going into that twist, and maybe touching right arm to right heel. And then we'll come back up to center on the inhale. We'll twist to the left and touch left fingertips to left heel. Inhale to reach and lift. Exhale as we come down. Now, if this isn't available for you, just keep your hands on your pelvis, and we'll do the twist with your hands on the pelvis. Very important that we're listening to our bodies. So inhale, reach up. Exhale, right fingertips to right heel. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, left fingertips to left heel. And then inhale, come back up. We'll come back into hands to heart, and we'll bring the left foot forward. As we come into the hip flexor stretch on that side, we're going to take the hips and we're going to intentionally do a little bit of a pelvic tilt here. We're going to power up the right glutes at the same time and isometrically push the right knee down and back. And that stretch should be felt in the front of the right hip. We'll inhale the arms up. On the exhale, turning to the right. Inhale the arms up. On the exhale, turning to the left. And then we'll inhale the arms up. And we'll exhale, bring the hands down inside that left foot and start to roll that left knee out, feeling that really nice stretch in the inner thigh of the left. You can take the block, if you've got one handy, and work down onto the forearms, or you can stay in that elevated position, bearing weight through the straight arm. Whichever is available for you today. Breathe in, breathe out. We'll take one more breath here. Exhale, come back on your extended arms. If you went down on your elbow, remove the block. And we'll start to rock back, bringing the hips back towards the heel. Pressing down into that left heel to really find a nice anchor there as the hips start to move back to the foot. A really nice hamstring stretch here. Appreciate it for what it is. See if you can engage the quadriceps on that left leg, and that will help the hamstrings release just a little bit. And breathing in and breathing out. Notice the space we're creating in the body through our stretching, but also through our breathing and through our contracting and relaxing muscles. One more breath here. We'll rock forward, back onto the left foot, bring left knee back to join the right. We'll take some movements here with the hips, whatever feels good, some cat-cows, maybe some tail wags side to side. And then bring the hands just a little bit in front of the arms, maybe about 4 or 5 inches. And we're going to go ahead and tuck those toes back again. And we're going to inhale the hips back towards the heels, but we're staying in a very neutral spine here. On the exhale, we're going to gently tighten the pelvic floor, Mula Bandha, and we're going to come forward until we're in sort of a modified plank pose here, bringing the shoulders right over the wrists. And then inhale to release that effort. And then exhale, gently squeeze pelvic floor. We'll move forward, shoulders right over the wrists. And then we'll inhale to come back, releasing pelvic floor, filling up the base of the lungs. Exhale, come forward as we gather up the pelvic floor, come forward, shoulders over wrist, and then lift up your right leg. Feel the power, feel like we're pressing through that heel cord again, really pressing that right heel back. Exhale, bring the right knee down. Lift the left knee, powering up that left quadriceps, pushing the left heel back. And then exhale, bring the knee down. And then we're going to go into a full plank. If you want to keep going into the half plank, you can. But for the rest of us, we're going to lift up that right knee. Then we're going to lift up the left knee. And voila, we're in a plank. So we'll breathe in and breathe out here. See if you can sort of scan your body and find pelvic floor. See if you can contract it maybe 10%. And then on the exhale, we'll drop the knees down. We'll bring the hips back. Give ourselves a little bit of a break. Notice the breath. Notice the movement of the pelvic floor here. As we breathe in and out. Notice that we're stretching through the shoulders, really nice shoulder stretch here. And then we'll take a breath in intentionally. On the exhale, we're going to squeeze pelvic floor, rock forward again. And then if you're ready, go ahead and lift both knees. If you want to go into lifting one knee and then the other, you can do that. And then once we're in the plank here, we're going to practice lifting one leg. Now that may not be available to you today. So if not, just lighten up the weight on one leg and then release that. And then lighten up the weight on the other leg, even if you don't lift it off the floor. Exhale, come down, drop the knees, and come back. It's a little bit of a way to kind of get ourselves into a plank progression here. And the plank goes nicely into down dog. So let's take a breath here in our sort of extended child's pose. We'll exhale, gently squeeze pelvic floor as we rock back again. Lift up both knees. And then when you're ready, pushing through those really open shoulders, bring the hips up towards the ceiling. Into our first down dog. Now, make your legs really wide if you like. That'll give you a lot more space. It'll give you more space through your hips and through your shoulders. So see if you can work on bringing the heels down towards the floor, even if they're not really touching the floor. It's just an energy that's pushing, pulling down. At the same time, you're mindful of the hands pressing down into the mat and pressing a little forward on the mat. That's going to lift the hips up towards the ceiling. So take a breath in and out. We'll take one more breath here. And then on the exhale, bring the knees back down towards the ground. Come back into our child's pose. Maybe crossing the arms, giving your forehead a little bit of a place to rest. And come back into breath awareness. So when we're practicing our yoga, we want to be mindful of working between those sort of more energetic poses and our more calming poses in a way to strengthen the resiliency of our nervous system. So building that into your practices is a nice habit. So we're not constantly pushing and striving, but we're finding those pockets of rest between the efforts. So we'll take one more breath here. And then we'll bring the arms back down long on the mat. Nice shoulder opening. And then let's take the hips a little bit higher. We're going to do a little bit of a twist now. So we'll take the right arm and thread it underneath the left. So going into another twist, we're going to reach that left arm long on the mat. So we're still keeping the shoulders nice and open. And then for those of you who want a little bit more energizing pose here, we're going to practice lifting up the left leg. So lifting it up towards the ceiling, maybe at a 45-degree angle. Notice that what that does to the balance of your body. Notice how there's a little bit of like auto correcting going on in your legs and your shoulders, maybe even in your head. If it's available and you'd like to do a quadricep stretch, bring the left heel towards the left buttock and then see if you can find that left ankle, maybe the top of the foot, and give yourself a little bit of overpressure here. Well, that might be too much for you today, so just listen. Take one more breath here, and then we'll release the bind if you had it, and we'll bring the left knee down to the mat, come back into our sort of extended puppy here. Noticing the space in the rib cage, and then we'll take our left arm, thread it right underneath the right, lengthening out that right arm, finding space in the shoulder, and then if it's available, lifting up the right leg. And you may find that this was easier on one side than the other, so accept the fact that we're not all symmetric. If you'd like to go further, go ahead and bend your right knee and see if you can, if I can, find my right foot with my right hand and feel that nice stretch into the right quadriceps. And with all this efforting, there's breath. Always coming back to the breath. Take one more in. On the exhale, release your bind. Right knee comes down. Right hand and left hand come back long on the mat. Finding space between fingertips and hips as the hips move back towards the heels. And then coming back a little bit with your hands, tucking the toes under once again. Find your breath. And then we're going to push through the hands with these nice open shoulders. We're going to lift the hips up towards the ceiling. Starting to straighten the legs, maybe a little bit more. And still go into that wide leg downward dog if that's more comfortable for you. You can shift your hips from side to side and bicycle your legs a bit. Usually feels really good. And then we're going to do what I call an inverted running man. So from this down dog position, I want you to bend the knees. Bend the knees so there's maybe about a 60-degree bend in them. And then we're going to lift up the right leg. So take all the weight in the left. And as you straighten the left leg, we're going to lift the bent right knee up towards the ceiling. So we inhale, knees come back down together. Both knees bending here. Exhale, straighten the left and lift that right foot up towards the ceiling. We'll inhale, bring knees down together in sort of a crouched position. Exhale, gently squeeze Mula Bandha as you come up with that right foot. And then we'll inhale one more time because you probably are just figuring out how to do this. Exhale, squeeze pelvic floor as you lift that bent right leg up towards the ceiling, engaging the glutes. And then we'll come back down with that right foot, drop the knees down, come back into an extended puppy or a child's pose, giving your shoulders, your hips, your legs a little bit of a break before we do the other side. So power up the arms. We're going to come back into our down dog. Keep the knees kind of soft. Bend them to about a 60-degree angle. And we're going to take the weight in the right foot. Left foot lifts. We straighten the right leg and push the left foot up towards the ceiling. Just like we're taking a stride in a run. So we'll inhale, bring the knees back down together. We'll exhale, squeeze pelvic floor, lift up. Inhale, knees come down together. We exhale, squeeze pelvic floor, lift up. And we'll do one more time, inhaling and exhaling. And then we'll inhale, come back down. Let's just sit back on our heels. So now we're not going to be in an inverted position, but we're just going to come back to breath awareness. I don't know about you, but that was tiring for me. If you found that it was not very tiring, then when you do your home practice, just add on some reps. Usually we work up to 8 to 12 reps of exercises when we're working on strengthening. So come back to breath, come back to awareness of the pelvic floor, of the rib cage. Maybe you're aware of your shoulders sort of feeling worked. Good feeling. Maybe they're feeling a little heavier now. Tune into sensation in the body here. As we start to bring our body into a little bit more of a restful mode. And we'll take one more breath here. On the exhale, we're going to come back into our all fours position. Tucking the toes under, we'll lift into our down dog again. See if you can straighten out the left leg and get that left heel down. The right leg's going to lift up, but this time we're opening up the right hip. So we're raising the pinky toe on the right leg up towards the ceiling, keeping the hips stacked as much as possible, noticing the effort for your shoulders. And then if it's available, bend the right knee so the right heel is coming down towards the left side of the body. So again, we're going into that quadricep stretch, got the adductors stretching, and the sides of the body stretching. Take one more breath here. On the exhale, we're coming into pigeon. So bring the right knee right behind the right wrist, the right ankle behind the left wrist as we come down into our pigeon pose, stretching into those hip rotator muscles. So here's an option to stay in an upright pigeon. You can use a block underneath your bent leg hip if that helps you stay in an upright position. You can also do more of a sleeping pigeon where you roll forward onto your forearms and come down to where you're getting a nice stretch into the hips on the right. Left leg is still going to be engaged, so don't ignore it. It shouldn't be just hanging out. We want to make sure that it's shooting straight out from the back. And then the most important thing of all is that we're feeling that the breath can move, that we're making space for the breath, we're spending the time necessary to notice breath. When we stay with breath awareness, we are truly living in the present moment. So keep the breath moving in and out, settling down into the stretch a little bit more. And then we're going to take the hands and walk them up, coming into our sort of proud pigeon here with our chest lifted and our neck long. And then go ahead and sit down on that right buttocks. Bring the left leg around, and we're going to come into a Lord of the Fishes pose here. Now we're going to get a little bit more stretch into the left hip. The right leg is still engaged, so keep those toes pulled towards the right side. The left hand's going to go behind the left hip. So start by being just really tall in your seat here. And I like to just grab my left knee with my right hand, just to give it a little bit of an assist. But we're going to inhale to lengthen and exhale and very gently turn to the left side. Not too much stretch here, just enough. Lengthen out on the inhale. On the exhale, we'll turn and twist. And we'll lengthen out on the inhale. On the exhale, if you can find Mula Bandha here, gently squeeze and lift as you turn. Create more space in the thoracic spine, a little less space in the lumbar spine. Target that stretch just a little bit higher in your body. On the inhale, we're going to do something kind of tricky here. So we're going to come back to center, and then we're going to keep turning to the right. Keep your feet exactly how they are. Hands are on the right side of the body, and we're going to turn around and come up so where we're facing the other side of the mat, and we're going to walk our hands out, walk our feet back, and come back into our downward facing dog. Okay, so now we're facing the other side of the mat, changing our perspective just a bit. We're going to inhale that left leg up. Keep the leg long and then start to stack the hips, left on top of right. Keep your arms really nice and powerful, pressing hard against the mat. And then bend the left leg so that the left foot is coming towards the right side of the mat. Stretching into that left quadriceps, keeping the right leg as your solid foundation. We'll take one breath in here, and then we'll exhale coming into a pigeon, bringing the left knee behind the left wrist, left ankle behind the right wrist. Again, there's options here of staying up, using a block underneath that left hip if that's helpful to maintain a nice base for the pose. Left toes are going to be pulling towards the left knee. And then if you'd like to, we'll come into a pigeon where we rock forward. So sort of that sleeping pigeon pose, if you will. We'll breathe in, breathe out, gradually working down into that stretch into the left hip. And we come back to breath awareness, back to feeling where we feel tension. Work with breathing to create space in those areas of tension. This has been called the pose of ultimate surrender. We just lay it all out. Recognize our lack of control. Allow things to just unfold. Let's take 2 more breaths here. And then we'll walk our hands up, coming back into sort of our proud pigeon. We're puffing out our chest and lengthening our spine. And then we'll bring that right leg around. Bring the right leg to the outside of the left leg. See if you can ground down the right sit bone and place the right hand behind the right hip. And then just gently grab the right knee with your left hand. We'll press down to lengthen the spine We'll exhale and turn. Now again, opportunity on that exhale to gently squeeze Mula Bandha. So we'll inhale to release. And we'll exhale, gently squeeze and turn just a little bit more. Shoulder, right shoulder reaching towards the back of the mat. Inhale to release. Exhale, gently turn and twist. And then on the next inhale, we'll come back to center. And we're going to do just what we did last time. We're going to place the hands on both hands on the left side of the body. And we're going to keep our feet right where they are. Come up, walk the hands around, and come back down on your knees. Come back down into a child's pose. You should be facing back the same direction that we started in. Coming back to that, either extending your arms down the mat with the child, or maybe you want to give yourself a little bit more of a platform with your forehead where the arms cross. And we'll notice the breath again. Notice the expansion of the rib cage. Maybe notice that the pelvic floor is moving with the breath. It's a really important thing to notice. And then we'll come up into our puppy pose. So again, noticing the breath here. Noticing that space between the sit bones, the space between the pubic bone and the tailbone. Call the pelvic floor. And we'll inhale. Exhale, working with gravity, we'll gently squeeze the pelvic floor muscles. This time we're going to hold the pelvic floor muscles. I want to invite you to breathe, but notice that the breath is now going to be more located in the upper chest area and less in the belly, because we've contracted the muscles in the pelvic floor and the belly. Now take a nice deep breath in and release that effort. And then exhale. We'll take another nice breath in. Feel the movement of Mula Bandha in the pelvic floor. On the exhale, gently squeeze. We're going for more endurance fibers here. We're going from holding the contraction for longer periods of time. Notice that the breath changes when we keep tension in those pelvic floor muscles. And then actively release as you take a nice deep breath in. So we'll go for one more endurance contraction of the pelvic floor. Take a breath in. Breathe out and gently squeeze pelvic floor. Think about 50% effort here. I like to think about sort of just gathering up a purse string, just kind of pulling everything to center. Here we have the added benefit of being in a position where gravity can work with us. Notice the change in the breath. Notice the challenge of keeping the muscle tight for this length of time. And then we'll inhale to release it. We're going to lift up the chin and roll forward onto the belly. Now place the hands either right in front of the shoulders or right under the shoulders. Pull the elbows together so the shoulder blades are gently pulling down the back. The neck is going to stay nice and long. We're going to inhale into our cobra, pressing down the pubic bone, pressing down the tops of the feet. Exhale. Lower down. So important with Cobra that we're keeping the elbows pulled together and the shoulder blades pulled back and down. We're really anchoring down the lower half of the body. Let the top half of the body fly. Exhale, lower down. We'll inhale, coming up one more time. Feel that expansiveness through the shoulders. So almost thinking of pulling the shoulders to the sides of the room, to the sides of the mat. And then exhale, come back down. We'll gently roll over onto our backs. And then with the feet, probably about 14 inches from the buttocks, we're gonna take a moment to really press those shoulder blades back down into the mat. Gently press the back of the head down so the chin stays level. We're gonna inhale. We're gonna exhale, gently squeeze Mula Bandha as we lift the hips up into our bridge. Keep the bridge lifted. Keep the feet grounded, the shoulder blades grounded, back of the head grounded. And then release Mula Bandha, release pelvic floor. Inhale up onto the balls of the feet. And then exhale, you can lower down, contracting Mula Bandha. You can go down in a pelvic tilt where you walk the spine down one bone at a time. And then we'll come down to rest, bring the feet wider than the mat, and we'll windshield wiper the knees from side to side. Do that as many times as it feels meaningful to you. And then we'll come back to center, feet grounded, feet are in line with the hips. Shoulder blades press down so the chest gently lifts up. Back of the head grounded. We're going to inhale. Exhale, gently squeeze Mula Bandha, pelvic floor. We lift up. And we come up into our bridge, really feeling grounded through everything that's touching the earth. Opportunities here to inhale and release pelvic floor. Exhale and tighten pelvic floor. So again, we're working with gravity here. Inhale to release. Exhale, gently squeeze. Inhale to release. Exhale, gently squeeze. And then we'll inhale up on the toes. Exhale, tighten Mula Bandha and lower down slowly. One vertebrae at a time until you come back to rest. And then we'll take those feet wider and windshield wiper the knees once you come all the way down. And then coming back to center, we're going to bring the right knee into the chest. Feel that nice stretch through the back of the hip, maybe through the low back. Those muscles have done a lot of work today. So breathe into that space. Breathe into any tightness that you feel. And then we're going to take our hands and just lightly hold the back of our leg, maybe close to the knee, depending on where your arms hit your leg. And then we're going to straighten that right leg up towards the ceiling. Stretching into the hamstrings. If you have a strap handy, you can grab the strap and you can loop it around the forefoot. You get a little bit deeper into that heel cord stretch that way. Maybe a little bit deeper into the hamstrings. And if this isn't much stretch for you, some of you have a lot of length, you can try straightening out the leg that's on the floor so your left leg can go straight. So see what works for you here today. Breathe in and breathe out. And then when you're ready, if your left leg's straightened, bring it back. If you're using the strap, unloop your foot and bring the right foot down to join the left. And then we'll do the same thing, starting with the left leg, bringing it into the chest first, noticing that delicious stretch in the back of the hip, maybe into the low back. You're going to feel the stretch the most wherever you're the tightest. We're using the breath to help dilate those blood vessels. Using the breath as a vantage point for awareness of the present moment. And using the breath to find space. So there's this timelessness and this spacelessness when we tuned into breath. And then we'll lift that left leg up towards the ceiling. Again, if you've got a strap handy and you want to use a strap, you can use the strap. Give yourself a little bit more of a stretch through that left leg, the left heel cord, and then we'll slide that right leg down if that's available to you today. Breathe in through the nose. You can breathe out, resisted through the mouth, or breathe out through the nose. We'll breathe in one more time. And then if you have a strap handy and your left foot's in the strap, bring your right foot up to join. If not, you can hold your legs with your hands into this sort of modified waterfall position. So when we're in a waterfall, we're allowing the blood from our feet and our lower legs. We're giving it some gravity assistance to come back to the heart. We do this in preparation of our final poses. Start to kind of reverse the efforting that we did during the class. So with or without a strap, you can also put a block under your hips. If that helps you, give your legs a little bit more support. And using the breath as a vascular pump to help the blood return to heart. Starting to really slow down the breath. Slowing down those exhales. Balancing the effort that we put out earlier in class. Now affording ourselves time to rest. So we'll spend about 3 more breaths here. Savor the time. Savor each breath. Luxury of having time and space. And after your last exhale, if you were up on the block, go ahead and bend your knees and remove the block. If you were holding your legs up with your arms, bring your knees into your chest. And then we'll lower one foot down to the mat at a time. Arms will come out to a little bit of a goal post, or you can do them all the way out to letter T if you'd like. And the knees are going to drift over to the right. If it's available and the neck feels like it's ready, it can turn to the left. If you're not quite on the floor, you can grab a blanket and put them under your knees and give yourself a little bit of support there. And even if you decide to use the blanket, go ahead and take your right hand and maybe put it on top of that left thigh or knee, and just stretch in through that fascial tissue a bit. To bathe our cells with our breath. More breath here. On the exhale, bring knees back to center, and then we'll use the blanket. Go ahead and put it on the other side, arms back out to goalpost, and we'll gently bring the knees over to the left side. The gaze is over to the right. And if you liked that little assist by bringing your left hand on top of your right thigh, that's a nice option to do here as well. Use the breath. Help your body come to that place of calm centeredness. Relaxed awareness. Place of spaciousness and timelessness. And then we'll bring knees back to center. If you like, you can use a bolster or a blanket underneath your knees. This is our time to really process everything that we've been through, but not in an active way. It's a time for our body just to absorb and stop efforting completely. We even stop trying to control the breath. We just allow. Our final pose of Shavasana. Sometimes it's nice when we start Shavasana to imagine that we are looking down onto our reclined bodies and see if we can see our entire body at one time. Engaging that visual part of our brain. Part of our brain that maps our body. Maybe as you visualize the body in Shavasana, you see just a faint glow, your aura. See the light that you bring into the world. Notice your body feeling heavier on the mat. Notice your body maybe feeling warmer. Just being wrapped in a cocoon. Supported, secure, and safe in this moment. And as thoughts arise, as they will, See if you can remain a detached observer, just watching them float across your brain like a ticker tape, coming and going. Not being attached to the story or the drama. And then we'll start to bring the body back into itself, bringing back our mind and body together as we call back our awareness. If you need longer in Shavasana, feel free, if you watch this later, to pause the video at this point and stay in Shavasana as long as you need to. The rest of us are going to start to make some little movements with our fingers and maybe our toes. You start to move your knees towards the center and then move them out. Looking at the hips. And then maybe making some gentle movements with your shoulders and thanking your shoulders for all the hard work that they did today. And rocking your head from side to side. And then the arms can reach up overhead, just like a good morning stretch. And when you're ready, we'll gently roll over onto the right side. Blankets in the way, just gently kick it away. And we've talked about the symbolism here where we go from corpse pose to a fetal position, symbolizing going from death to new life. After every yoga practice, we clear out, we clean out, we make space. We make peace with time. Take a moment to relish that knowledge that you've spent the last hour working on reclaiming some of that space and time. And when you're ready, just gently come up to a comfortable seat. It's comfortable for you to sit with your legs crossed and your spine long. Do that. Choose some other position. That is fine as well. Come up with our Anjali Mudra. Bring the prayer into our heart space. And I'm going to invite you to do one more breathing exercise where keep a little bit of space between the palms and have the heels of your hands touching and the pads of your fingers touching. And then on the inhale, open up. Maybe just the 3 middle fingers open up. Maybe the whole hand opens up, just blossoming. And then on the exhale, bring finger pads back together. Inhale, not only moving our fingers apart, but noticing the ribs move to the side and to the back and to the front, and the belly rises and the pelvic floor relaxes. And on the exhale, there's this gentle moving back to center as we gently squeeze and lift the middle of Bandha. And one more time, we open our hearts. Open all the chakras. Exhale, fingertips back together. And if you'd like to join me, we're going to close with one Om. You can also hum, that vibrational energy being very restorative to our bodies. We'll take a breath in. Light in me, bells, and light in each one of you. Namaste.
Namaste.